So blood doping is where you boost people's hemoglobin and hematocrit. There are various ways you can do it. You can draw blood off from them and then put it back in them later. You can give them EPO, which is a medicine that stimulates people to develop more, to have more blood cells. It works. It works. You improve endurance when you increase your amount of red blood cells in your blood. The problem is it thickens your blood, and even high-level athletes, they get strokes, they get heart attacks from their blood plugging up because of it being too high. In the cycling world now, they actually control. You can only have a hemoglobin or hematocrit that's so high. If it's higher than that, then you get in trouble because they have had deaths in professional cycling from people blood doping. This is a bad idea. There's no way that you can really try to control that and have it at just the right level. And so it's a dangerous thing and shouldn't be done. On the other hand, creatine is actually a very, very safe supplement. It's something that we all have in our diet, and if you take it right before you exercise, then you're giving your body some of those energy blocks that you need for lifting, and it has been shown actually to improve performance, allow people to work out more and better. It does increase your body mass to some degree by increasing water content, but it makes that water less available to the person, and so actually taken in large doses, it can actually cause cramps. And some football teams have seen this where the kids start taking way more creatine than they should, and all of a sudden they got kids going down with cramps all the time during games, and it's because they're taking too much creatine. As it turns out, if you take 3 grams a day, that is effective. That does help you gain more muscle, helps your strength workout go better. If you go up to 6 grams a day, it really doesn't. That is no benefit over 3 grams a day. Well, there are kids who take 10 or 15 grams a day, so that's just foolish. It's not helping you, but now you're getting cramps all the time. So so it's safe if used in a proper dose, and if you take too much, you'd have to take an enormous amount too much to really give yourself a serious problem. So this is why I tell kids, all right, use a reasonable dose, and it's safe and it is effective. Another thing for weightlifting, HMB, again, you can buy it at any vitamin store, nutrition store. It actually decreases some of the muscle damage and helps speed up repair of the muscle after a weightlifting workout. And so has been actually shown to decrease muscle soreness after workouts. Once again, the dose is 3 grams a day. Going above that does not give you any additional benefit. But of course, if you get high enough, it can cause you problems. So those are a couple of safe things people can use for weightlifting. Now here's something that obviously is not safe. So the steroids, they're analogs of testosterone. Also, human growth hormone is a similar kind of thing that people will take. They are effective. They increase strength, they increase your muscle mass, but they have a lot of bad side effects, even at relatively low doses. So causing problems with liver, with the heart, testicular atrophy, acne, aggressive behavior and risk behavior. People will go and do risky things that because of its effect on their psyche, even including suicide. And then gynecomastia, I've actually seen this in athletes where male athletes will start to grow breasts. Remember that testosterone and estrogen are very, very similar. So if you take a lot of testosterone in some people's bodies, they turn that into estrogen, and then the boys start growing breasts. So not safe at any dose, and definitely a bad idea. Amphetamine stimulants. Amphetamines really not safe. They have a lot of side effects that can be problematic. Caffeine is safe if taken in a reasonable dose. Both of these type of things increase alertness, decrease fatigue. They improve primarily aerobic performance. They are effective for weight loss. If taken in high doses, they can cause anxiety, tremors, irritability, heart rhythm problems, hypertension, and stomach problems. You guys may remember Fen-Phen, which was a dietary aid. Fen-Phen was very, very safe. If you took it in the recommended dose, it was incredibly safe and very effective. If you took it at 2 or 3 times the recommended dose, it was still safe, not necessarily more effective, but people would take it in 10 or 15 times the recommended dose, and then they'd have heart problems and they would die. And that's why it got pulled off the market, because of people using it irresponsibly. Caffeine is accepted by the Olympic Committee and the NCAA, but only in some limited amount. You wouldn't want to drink 5 cups of coffee before your blood test or urine test, actually, if you're being tested, because you could potentially get yourself above that limit. So now here are some important things about these different aids, even the legal ones. None of these is as effective as a good night's sleep. Okay, so if you take 2 guys and one of them you give them creatine and HMB, and the other one you don't, and the one that you give the medicine to, he gets to sleep 2 hours less than the guy who's not getting the medicine. Well, the guy who's getting a full night's sleep and not taking the supplements, he will do better than the guy who's taking supplements but not getting good sleep. Same thing with diet. The guy who's eating a proper diet is going to get a better effect than the guy with a poor diet and these aids. So it's important that you start with the basics. So you're getting enough rest, you're eating a decent diet, and then you have a proper workout program. If you have all those things, then taking the legal, safe aids like creatine or HMB will be helpful to you. On the other hand, if you're staying up late, if you're getting drunk, and causing massive fluid shifts in and out of your body, doing these sorts of things, well, you're doing yourself far more harm than any of these ergogenic aids are going to do you benefit. And so that's a very important point for people to realize. If you're really trying to develop yourself for your sport, well then you got to get to bed every night at a reasonable time, and you got to eat properly, and you got to not be going out and getting drunk and doing things that are messing with your body's physiology, because those are holding you back far more than any aid can boost you. So now here's some sports training realities that are important to know. You can't change your genetics, and you won't necessarily be exactly like your parents. And we have these problems sometimes when a guy comes in and maybe he had a tryout in the NFL and he really wants his kid to be a football player. Well, he will give his kids have a better chance of having those types of skills, but they don't necessarily. I mean, it's not the case that if I'm a good football player, I pass that on to my kid and he'll be a good football player too. His kid may be a total klutz. Well, if you say, well, I played football in college, so I want my kid to be a college football player, you can't necessarily just say that's going to be the case. So, and anybody who has a fair number of kids knows this, that if you look at your kids, they're not all the same. Your kids are different, even though they have the same parents. And so you can't just decide my kid's going to be this or that, or even a kid. If you're a kid who's 5'4" and 120 pounds, and you're near your full growth, and your goal is to be a defensive lineman in the NFL, that's not going to happen. You don't have the genetics for that. So it's important to understand that. You want to do the best you can with the body that you have, but you can only affect that so much. It's important to remember that growing affects your training and affects the outcome that you're going to have. Kids who grow a lot during a period of time, they may be a little less coordinated while they're in that big growth spurt. There are people like Clay Matthews who may be small all the way through. I mean, he started college, I think he was 160 pounds when he started college, walked on to the football team, and did all of his growing while he was in college. If you're lucky and you got that growth late, but you can get an opportunity like he did, well, look at him now, fantastic. But you can't just say, well, okay, I'm going to grow early or I'm going to grow late. Your genetics controls that, and that affects how you're going to be able to do or where you're going to be at different points. It's important that you train for your long-term health. Training for a sport is good, and we get kids working out for football and so forth, and especially if sports can convince you to exercise, that's fantastic. But in the end, you want to keep in mind that this is about your long-term health. You want to be healthy in the long term. And then the last thing is, as I talked about earlier, if you're wanting to be ready for sports in the fall, then you got to be working out in the summertime. You know, fall football, cross country, that starts in August. And if you don't start running until the week before, or if you're on the couch right up until the first day of practice, those first days are going to be tough. And I tell kids this all the time: if you want to enjoy football, then you better be working out during the summer. Because if you're heat acclimated, if you've been outside running and exercising in the heat and you're used to that, well, then football practice is fun. And if you've been in the air-conditioned basement playing on your Xbox all summer, football's miserable. And by the time you're in shape, the season's now half or 2/3 of the way over. So you haven't had nearly as much fun as you could have had. If you're working out during the summer, that first day of practice is fun, and you enjoy your entire season. It's a lot more fun. So that's important. So you don't want to go to practice to get in shape. You want to be in shape when you show up for practice, and you'll enjoy it more, and you'll have a lot fewer injuries. Now here's another picture just to think about the long term. You know, a lot of guys would have really liked to look like this when they're 25. But the thing is that he's enormous. You know, his skin is all stretched out to accommodate all that muscle, and he's lifting 20 hours a day. Well, you know, you can't do that for your whole life. You got other stuff going on. Well, here's what he looks like now. And you realize he's not fat in this picture, right? He's not fat, but his skin's just hanging on him because of all that muscle he had. He just spent a lot more of his life looking like this than he spent looking like that. And so always keep that in mind. You know, where am I going to be when I'm 30, 40, 50, 60? You know, not just what am I going to look like when I'm 25. And then I put this picture up here last. This is the top of Mount Baldy in New Mexico. And I put this to remind myself to talk about one last time about how you know, you can do certain things with training, but you can't change your genetics. And there's certain factors that are inescapable. This is actually my sons and me. Where am I? I'm there. And one of our friends. We hiked up this mountain. We had some kids with us who were thin, but never really had worked out, and they scrambled right up that mountain without a problem. Okay, this guy, when we started that hike, was 255 pounds. He lost 25 pounds in the course of that hike. For him to get up this mountain was a terrible struggle. And this is a guy who can run, you know, at 255 pounds, he can run 3 miles in 24 minutes. You know, he can run 8-minute mile. I mean, he's very, very fit. But you know what? Being that big, you know, your lungs are only so big. So for this particular athletic activity, all of his working out did not make him as fit for it as the skinny kids who never work out. So that's an important thing to realize. The other miserable thing about this for those of us who are a little bit older is that in that hike, he lost 25 pounds. He didn't want to lose anything. We were struggling to get enough calories in him, but he still lost 25 pounds. I went intending to lose weight and lost nothing. So once again, genetics, and I think the efficiency of age. You know, our bodies get better at using those calories, and we can't just lose it. So that's what I've got to tell you guys about. Do you have any questions about it? Anything I can answer for you?
You've got your ball, you got your chain tied to me tight.